This is VOA. I am Chetra Chap, here at the Marriott Woodland Park Hotel to meet with Professor David Chandler, who is one of the most prominent scholars of Cambodian modern history. I'm here to talk with him about the futures of Cambodia by reflecting on history and the relationship between Cambodia and China. Please stay tuned to the interview. Thank you. What do you think about China's rising influence in Cambodia today and in the near future?
I think China's influence in Cambodia today is very strong, and the government is perfectly happy with it, the Cambodian government. Cambodia is not a puppet of China. It's not serving China's interests necessarily, but when an issue comes up that is in China's interest, Cambodia is going to, as they did with the South China Sea a few years ago, they're going to be a friend of China. It's their most friendly donor. It's part of a campaign that China's had for years of pushing into the countries of Southeast Asia and Africa and Latin America with aid programs that would gain friendship from these governments, and they're being very successful. Whether it's a positive development or not, I can't say, but I don't think it's going to stop for the foreseeable future. They're not going to withdraw their friendly aid to Cambodia in the future.
Looking at history, does the Khmer Rouge teach us anything about relying too much on China?
Well, people would say it's a different China now, and Hun Sen's government is not a Khmer Rouge government. And I don't think it's a matter of relying or copying. The Khmer Rouge copied China, and China was an ideological model. That is not happening. Cambodia is not a communist country. China is still a communist country. But no, the friendship is what's involved with the two states, I think, and that's okay for both of them as far as I can see.
In terms of economic investment, you have a lot of Chinese business coming in, buying land, doing all kinds of economic activities. Is there a concern for the Cambodian people?
Oh, I think it should be, but I don't think there's much can be done about it. I don't think who's going to come to the defense of the Cambodian people against business interests, capitalism, if you like, Chinese interests. I don't think it's a very healthy development to have that much land transfers and so on, but I don't see who's going to come to their help. And maybe in the long term it'll be positive. Like the Western Europe with industrialization, there were a lot of casualties, but then you ended up with a very booming economy in the late 19th century, and maybe that's what they're driving at.
If you give some suggestion to the Cambodian government in dealing with China, what would you say?
I'm not going to give suggestions to the Cambodian government. I think the current regime is very happy with the arrangements, and so there's no advice. My advice maybe would be to another government, which is not in sight, not going to happen, that maybe you should be more cautious, but I can't. I have no right to advise the current government, and I don't think they'd pay any attention to anyone who said you should pull back from this very profitable arrangement that they've entered into.
So in the regional and international context, what does Cambodia moving toward China and moving away from the Western community, what does it mean for Cambodia?
Well, they never were that close to the Western community. They always would prefer Asian alliances. They're an Asian country. Asian countries prefer friends in Asia. What it means in ASEAN, I'm not sure. It might have some effect on Cambodia's membership in ASEAN. Some of the other members might be, maybe Indonesia, for example, might be just a little bit nervous about the size of Chinese investment and influence in Cambodia. That may have ramifications, I don't know. I don't think it's got anything special for Cambodia's future that I can see at the moment.
Now let's look at the overall futures of Cambodia in the long term. Given its history, with powerful kings, communist regimes, and recent close tie to a communist superpower, will Cambodia be able to function as a democracy?
I don't see that in the immediate future, and every country in Southeast Asia has become or has always been or has become authoritarian in the last few years. It's a worldwide trend. How long it's going to happen, continue, I don't know. There's some good signs in Europe that maybe it's not going to be that bad, but there's a trend toward authoritarianism in the world today. It's the Philippines and various other countries have become authoritarian. Cambodia's government, except of course under colonial rule, has always been authoritarian. It's never been democratic. It's never been an open, competitive political society, and I don't see that happening in the future, which is too bad from my point of view. But I'm not Cambodian.
Is there a way that we can actually make it happen?
No. Well, I mean, who's going to take up arms? And that would have to be something like that. I certainly never would expect anybody to want to do that, because they would be crushed. Anybody who took up arms against the Cambodians would very quickly be put out of business. And so it's not going to happen violently. I don't see it happening peacefully in the foreseeable future because the electoral process has been taken over pretty much by the government. It's not an election where someone else is going to have a chance to. There'll be a regime change, and this is exactly what Hun Sen is absolutely opposed to, regime change, and there's not going to be any.
So looking at that, trying to change, Cambodia youth and Cambodian people are very active in being civic. What kind of role do you see them playing?
Oh, they're going to continue to be active, but I certainly would not. I'm not in a position to give advice, but I'm moved by their activity and by their interest and so on. But I can't see how that activity and interest can have any regime alteration effects the way the regime is behaving at the moment. It's just not a time for that kind of activity, as you know. It's not a good time for that type of activity.
So this question is more on the international context. Will Cambodia be able to function independently, free of any influence from foreign powers?
No, of course not. It never has been able to do that, except back in the Angkorian era when it was the major power itself. Then there were no other major powers messing with it. But as soon as it became weak in the 16th, 17th century, it's always been under the influence of one foreign government or another, and the governments of Cambodia have sought powerful patrons to protect them against other people they're frightened by or annoyed by. So they've always had a patron of one kind or another. They had France or they had China. Never had the United States, but they've had various patrons. And that's a pattern that Hun Sen is following with the Chinese arrangement. It's not going to be, no, exactly.
You seem very pessimistic.
I'm afraid I am. I haven't always been. I'm not a pessimist by nature, but and I'd hate to, have this broadcast be an expression of a profound pessimism or anything, but I just don't see where in the near future where the changes are going to take place. What I could say 20 years from, I have no idea. The world's going to be very different in 20 years. There are a couple billion people on it. It's going to be a different place.
With decades of wars and conflicts, how can Cambodia change its future for the better without shedding more blood?
Well, I can't predict things that there's things I just know what's going to happen. If, let's say, the current leadership just dies peacefully, as I expect he will, what happens next, I'm not sure. That's when you could be able to see what the country's doing that might be different from him. I think it might be less personalized, but I think it's certainly going to be the same people are going to be in power in Cambodia as are in power now. They're not going to be, these are the investors and the people with strong interest in remaining in power. That's not going to change. But maybe the manner, the style might change a little bit. It might become less, it might become just a little less personal. But I can't say that, maybe not.
So if you were to write another history book about Cambodia, what do you envision the book is about?
Well, it's about Cambodia. It's about Cambodia's past. I don't want to predict Cambodia's future, and I think it's not correct for me to even try to predict. I'm not a Cambodian. I can't influence the choices, and I'm not going to suggest even for Cambodians what they should do. I'm going to be, but I think the last chapter of my history, if I do get a revised edition, as I may, will be more pessimistic than the last chapter was in the last edition.
You just been honored with the Distinguished Distribution to Asian Study Award yesterday, and the president of the Associations of Asian Study said that, and I quote, the work of David Chandler has made Cambodia a field of study. What's your comments on that?
Well, I didn't make it a field of study, but people followed me into it. When I started being a scholar of Cambodian history, there was no one else doing that. With the Civil War, the Khmer Rouge, the refugee issue, UNTAC, a lot of people became involved in Cambodia outside the academic world, and a lot of them moved into academia after that, having become attracted to the country with UNTAC or the refugees or whatever. And it just became a much larger and more crowded, happily crowded field. And I'm happy to have been maybe there the longest, but that's not, I didn't create it. A mass of people joined, and after I was there already. I helped some of these people. Some of my students were some of these people, and I was happy to do that.
Do you want to say anything back to the association for giving the award?
Oh, I was just very flattered and very pleased, but surprised. No, I don't think I'll say any more than that.
Thank you, Dr. Chandler.
You're welcome.
Nice talking to you.
Thank you very much.